What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36, and I'm here with Greg McGarity. And each and every week, we bring you the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection presented by Toyota. We go over the last week in college football and how it affects the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl as it currently stands. And then we will kind of preview some of the games coming up and what you should be looking forward to and what's exciting. College football this year has been crazy. We have seen some of the wildest stuff really in the last 4 years. We've seen a shoe affect the game. We've seen a quarterback spike the ball on fourth down that affects the game, and we've seen somebody not bending the knee affect the game. But we'll get into some of those things in a little bit. But what's going on? How did you enjoy your weekend? I had a great time.
I did too. I didn't stay awake to watch the teams on the West Coast. I missed the 3 overtime game with Southern Cal, but I know Southern Cal's got their work cut out for them against Notre Dame this week. But it was a great weekend, and it's just crazy because the things that happen are just hard to understand. But a lot of great things happen, and that's why people love college football. The unexpected happens every week.
All right, one of the things that I always learn in media is that you don't bury the lead. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the thing that has literally every sports news, Israel, everywhere talking right now. That is the Miami Georgia Tech game. I've seen so many things that have nothing to do with sports bring this up. What were your thoughts on that game? And just like I don't know how to wrap my mind around it.
Well, I had actually turned the game to another channel because I knew that the game was in control. So I didn't find out about it till the next morning when I woke up, and I'm saying, well, what is going on here? How could that happen? And then I saw the replays, and of course, everyone that's talked about it. It's unfortunate for those young men on the field, because my first thought was thinking of the amount of time they have put into winning a football game with all the off-season conditioning and two-a-days, and I felt bad for them because even though they didn't play a great game, they played good enough to win, and unfortunately things didn't work out. So I felt bad for the kids because they're the ones that have put in the sweat and equity to get that point to where you can win a game.
Miami was trending upward, looking like they could possibly be a potential ACC championship contender. This was a game that everybody thought that they should win, especially after them beating A&M earlier this season. And this was supposed to be a layup going into a really, really, as you would say it, tough road to hoe.
Well, North Carolina, it was setting up for 2 undefeated teams to play each other. But I think you'll find out a lot about really the character of Miami this weekend. Can they bounce back against a team that's red hot and a quarterback that's red hot? So a lot of things on the line that week as far as New Year's Day games or other bowls of that nature.
Staying in the ACC, my alma mater, Florida State, did pretty good. Played against Virginia Tech. Never really lost control of the game. Ended up being a 22-point blowout, if I could use that word there in that context. Virginia Tech probably definitely out of the Gator Bowl, but do you think they still could potentially even get into a bowl game?
You know, you have to look at their schedule on out. 6 wins is going to be very difficult for them. 6 wins is going to be difficult for a number of teams on both sides, the ACC and the SEC. So some teams are playing themselves out of bowl contention, but they've still got we're on the back half of the season now with week 7. So big games will be important, and as each week marches on, the games get bigger and bigger for different reasons, whether it's bowl eligibility or college football playoff or New Year's Day 6.
One last thing, with the ACC right now having 3 undefeated teams, and none of those teams play each other, and they're all looking like they have favorable matchups going into ending the season undefeated in league play. How does that affect the Gator Bowl?
Well, I would hate to. I know there's a formula, but if they all ended up that way, and I'm not sure who would fall out unless it goes back to the rankings or things of that nature. But it depends on how many teams play up. Again, if you've got Florida State in the top 4, and you've got Louisville and North Carolina that are in the top 10, top 12, they're probably going to feed in to the New Year's Day bowl game. So a lot riding on every game how important it is, and can they finish the job? We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, the ACC has some big games coming up this week. Florida State is trying to remain undefeated, playing Syracuse with a very athletic quarterback. Dino Babers, really good coach, can dial it up. But that North Carolina-Miami game, a lot of implications. I know you talked about, you see the character of Miami in this, and you'll see if North Carolina is as good as advertised. Louisville should blow out Pittsburgh. But Duke, NC State, that should be that's a game that we should be circling and watching, correct?
Absolutely. Both are in contention for our game, and so the winner elevates himself a good bit. I don't think either team will be in contention for the New Year's Day 6. So once teams are not in that group, then certainly they're on the table for us.
Fans should watch what's going on with the Riley Leonard situation. He's day to day. Thankfully, his injury wasn't career threatening, but he's coming back. He's working. He's on the mend, it seems like, as of right now. And Clemson has a tremendous battle against the bye week this week. So going over into the SEC, we saw LSU almost figure out another way to lose, but playing back and forth. Does that, like, I guess from just an overall perspective, does that affect like pollers or anything like that? Because obviously they can score, but they're not playing defense. Their defense is nowhere near as good as what we thought it would be. Kind of just give me your opinions on LSU as of right now.
Well, obviously, Daniels at quarterback is an elite player, and you're seeing how wonderful he is, his ability to run and throw the ball. You know, it's kind of like some teams in the NFL that don't have a great defense, but they score so many points that it's just like Southern Cal. I mean, Southern Cal plays no defense, but they've got a great offense, and that's what you're seeing at LSU. And can that withstand the test of time? Like when they play Alabama in Tuscaloosa, you know, I'm not so sure, because defense, at the end of the day, defense is going to win championships. But you can't dismiss the fact of how electric they are and how exciting they are to watch. They're a fun team to watch.
Missouri puts up points way better than what a lot of people expected them to be this year. Kentucky went up and basically, from after playing at a great level and dominating Florida, looked like they got dominated by Georgia. But that's a pretty good matchup coming up here between Kentucky and Missouri.
Could have been two undefeated teams playing each other, but they both lost. Kentucky playing at home, I think they're going to be favored to win that game, but you're going to see one offense that throws the ball everywhere like Missouri against a team that's probably going to try to get back to running the ball, pounding the ball, because LSU had a lot of success and Georgia had a lot of success against Kentucky's defense. But I'm favoring the home team this week. I think they're better at home, obviously, on the road.
Bama should be able to take care of Arkansas relatively quickly. Tennessee and A&M, two teams that are really, the expectations were a little bit higher for them, but now they're battling. That game should be relatively exciting as well to watch.
A huge game for both schools, because the loser, obviously, their road to Bel-Air New Year's Day 6 is difficult as it is now, but really you're talking about a game that is going to be very, very pivotal for both teams' success on the way down for the rest of the season.
Another game with a lot of, especially in our area, I used to call this Seminole Purgatory, because of its proximity to Gainesville and how many Gator fans are here. Florida goes to South Carolina. Both teams need this win, not to just be considered for the Gator Bowl, but to be considered for bowl eligibility and keep themselves in contention, because they still have a couple tough games on the schedule that very few are going to believe they're going to win. Talk about that game.
Well, I think the loser of that game is going to have a very difficult time being bowl eligible, knowing what the rest of their season looks like. Got to have 6 to be in our game. You probably need, at least 8. So, bowl eligibility is on their mind this weekend, because a loss by either team is going to make that path very, very difficult.
It's funny, 2005, when we played here in Jacksonville for the ACC championship, we were faced with the prospects of, and there's no disrespect to them, of playing on Christmas Day, I think the Potato Bowl or the Orange Bowl.
That's right.
So our mantra was, we got to play for per diem. Like so
Yeah.
that seems to be the mantra for them right there. Going into the situation, it looks like our board has changed a little bit. We still in the college football playoff. We're still looking at only 2 teams. In the New Year's Six, you have North Carolina and Louisville, obviously are undefeated, and Alabama for the SEC. But in the hunt, talk about some of these teams and what the attractiveness of them coming into the Gator Bowl would be.
Well, it's populated, you can see, with a ton of teams. But you have to take Notre Dame and South Carolina out because they cannot come back to back bowl games here. So as we said, does Syracuse play their way in? Did they play out? So Tech helped themselves. I mean, they're out right now, but if they have a ton of wins, they could move up. So there's a lot of teams in contention, not a lot of teams out right now on the SEC side that we project that would not be bowl eligible, or at least out of our conversation. Probably a few more in the ACC as well, but you're looking at some really, really good matchups, and the projections of the 7 that we kind of look at show matchups that are outstanding, with the exception of one that had Notre Dame versus Florida, so we know that can't happen. So that one, the credibility of that one probably is not very high right now.
So going over into the bowl projections, we have CBS with Louisville versus Tennessee, Athlon with Louisville versus Ole Miss. I think any game with Louisville, especially their explosion on offense in most of their games outside of one, and then Tennessee, strong on quarterback, explosive offense. Ole Miss, very similar. 247 Sports changed, I believe. That's the ones. That's Clemson versus Missouri. That would be really, really interesting, especially again Missouri can fling it, put up points. So we've seen that. Clemson is probably, I think, one of the better 2-loss teams. The season just got away from them. September. It's amazing how college football, your season can completely change and your expectations in the first month. College football news, I think Clemson, Texas A&M, they were that last time. But USA Today, Miami, Ole Miss would be interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Brett Murphy has Duke, Tennessee. But let's talk about ESPN. And I know we just mentioned it, but let's go back over why these aren't probable.
Well, Notre Dame, ACC has a policy, unless weird things happen, that a team can't repeat and probably can't go to a bowl site if they've been there 2 out of the last 3 years. So that would be difficult, for really impossible for Notre Dame to come. As far as Texas A&M, they were supposed to be in our game 2 years ago. They did not play. That repeat game obviously never really is going to take place as far as them playing in the game, actual game, because Rutgers replaced them. So, but even though they were scheduled to come here, that might take them out of play, again, unless weird things happen. But we'll just see how things work out. But when you have teams like that on the board, it probably sends a little concern there as far as the prognosticators' understanding of SEC and ACC rules and regs.
All right. Something I haven't asked you before, but I'm going to switch it up. 4 games that you're watching or that you would be tracking this weekend. Doesn't have to have any effect on the bowl game, just 4 games that you would be watching.
Well, I want to watch Notre Dame and Southern Cal. They play at night at Notre Dame. Huge game for Notre Dame, as well as Southern Cal for their hopes. And it'll be interesting to see how Southern Cal's defense can really play against Notre Dame at home and how those things mesh out. I'm really excited about the A&M and Tennessee game. That's going to be a game that has huge implications for us. I think the NC State Duke game is going to be very interesting, and the Washington-Oregon game. 2 undefeated teams in the Pac-12, and the winner of that game being able to maybe work themselves into that discussion for the Final Four. But again, a great weekend of football, but certainly things that impact our bowl games, and certainly things that impact the national scene. So a lot of interesting things. It'll be another great week of college football, which actually starts on Tuesday this week, Tuesday through Sunday. So games galore this week.
That's fun. Gotta love it. That's why it's so sad when it's over, because it feels like it just started, but we're in week 7. So on that note, We appreciate you for your time. Appreciate the insight. I'm at Big Game James _36. This is Greg McGarity. And this is your Tax Slayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection presented by Toyota, where each and every week we talk about the landscape of college football and how it affects the Gator Bowl here in Jacksonville. We'll see you guys next week.